Good evening, students. This is Dr. Simon. I will be presenting the information for week 4. I'd like to start off with highlighting some information that's in your Chapter 6 text. You are still responsible for reading the entire chapter for Chapter 6, as the questions from your quiz can come from any part. But there are some things that I do want to highlight and go over. And then we will go over the information that's on Blackboard for this week. So we'll start off with Chapter 6. In Chapter 6, we begin discussing information related to stress disorders. When we appraise a stressor as threatening, we often experience a stress response consisting of arousal and fear. And fear is a combination of physical, emotional, and cognitive responses. So you may have heard and you will read, or you may have already read in your textbooks about the fight or flight response. I want us to watch a short clip that kind of explains the fight or flight response. So let me pull that up. Okay. We'll wait as it loads.
Many scientists believe that we live in a stress culture. We work longer, live harder, and lead increasingly stressful lives. But what is stress, and what does it do to us? Over the last decade, there has been a revolution in research whereby scientists are recognizing the interaction between the body and the mind, and the link between stress and illness in human beings. What goes on in our minds produces huge physiological changes in our bodies.
Our physiological stress response is absolutely adapted to protect us from danger. It's adapted from Tom's ancestors when they needed to escape from animals, such as that lion. And we call it the fight or the flight response. It's the response the body needs to protect itself from danger or to fight its way out of a particular problem.
So what have Tom's ancestors conditioned his body to do when he sees a lion? Through the eyes, an area of the brain called the cortex recognizes the lion. The message is sent through to the amygdala, which identifies the lion as a threat. The amygdala then activates the hypothalamus in the base of the brain.
The hypothalamus is the critical part of the brain, which then organizes the response to the stress. It sends messages right down through the spinal cord, which then get to the middle of the adrenal gland, the adrenal medulla, and it releases a hormone called adrenaline. And adrenaline is a very important hormone in the stress response. It increases the amount of sugar in the blood, it increases the heart rate, and really increases the amount of energy available to your muscles. But the hypothalamus also sends other messages to the pituitary gland, and from the pituitary, further messages go to the adrenal cortex, the outside of the adrenal gland, and this makes cortisol. And cortisol is the other key hormone which acts to put up your blood pressure and keep up your blood sugar, and again is a very important protective hormone in a stress situation.
The fight or flight response may be an appropriate response to ancestral threats, but it's not always appropriate in our modern lives.
Okay, so that gives you a brief biological understanding of the fight or flight response, to show you how the brain and the body works to produce that response. Okay, so back to the PowerPoint. Right, stress reactions and the fear they produce are often factors in people who experience psychological disorders. The stress reactions and fear are factors in disorders such as acute stress disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. The DSM refers to these groups as trauma and stress disorders. You have the DSM-5 criteria in your Blackboard as a handout to give you the different factors that go in for you to be able to diagnose someone with acute stress disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder. And when we get to Blackboard, we'll take a look at that. The Veterans Affairs has information and training available for post-traumatic stress disorder. And so we'll take a look at that one.
Have you or someone you love ever been in a tornado or car accident, experienced sexual or physical abuse, served in a war zone? Most people have been through some kind of life-threatening or traumatic event, and it's common to have stress-related reactions after a trauma. But 3 months and they're not getting better, it's time to get help.
One of the things that I want to point out, so I've paused the video, is that you will notice that PTSD is not just a disorder that affects individuals in the military. There's quite a few people who may believe that because that's what you see in majority. But as you notice, he included multiple traumatic events that could cause someone to have PTSD. And so as we continue on, you hear more about this in this video, and you'll see more of it as we continue to delve into the website available by the Veterans Affairs, because they take it more into just those individuals who have served into the military.
Meet Sam. He recently returned from serving in Iraq. For many people, being in a crowded place like a baseball stadium or busy grocery store feels comfortable, but not for Sam. What should be a nice night out, taking his wife Tara to a restaurant, isn't fun for him anymore. He can only handle it if he sits with his back to the wall where he has a good view of the exits, and even then, he's too on edge to really enjoy it. At home, things aren't the way they used to be either. His sleep is restless at best, and some nights Tara isn't sure if Sam comes to bed at all. Sam seems to have a short fuse these days, and sometimes he snaps at Tara over tiny misunderstandings. What he and Tara never talk about is the trauma he experienced when he was deployed. He's never mentioned the guilt, the weight he carries around, wishing he could have done more to prevent what happened. Instead, he's turned inward, pulling away from family and friends. Tara tried to give him some space, but after months passing without change, she really started to worry. She was the one to finally say what they were both thinking. It's time to get help. That's when Sam finally decided to take action. He reached out to a doctor who told him about PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. Sam's symptoms were getting in the way of enjoying his life. Re-experiencing, hyperarousal, feeling worse about yourself or the world, and avoidance are the 4 types of symptoms people with PTSD have. Sam's doctor explained each. The first is reliving the event, or re-experiencing. This is often an unwanted memory or even a flashback where you feel like you're right back in the situation again. Seeing, hearing, or even smelling something that reminds you of the trauma can trigger these. Nightmares where you relive parts of the event in your sleep are common too. The second is avoidance. Staying away from situations that remind you of the trauma. That's why Sam tries to avoid thinking about painful memories altogether. He pours himself into his work or uses alcohol to keep his mind from going back to the trauma. The third is feeling worse about yourself or the world since the trauma. You might feel overwhelming guilt, like Sam, or not trust anyone. You just might not be able to feel happy, even when you are around people you love. The fourth type of symptom is sudden rushes of anger, irritability, feeling jittery, always on alert, always on the lookout for danger. This is called hyperarousal, and loud noises or a driver cutting in front of you can be all it takes to set you off. If you recognize any of these symptoms of PTSD in yourself or someone you love, don't wait. See your doctor to find out if it could be PTSD. Just like Sam and Tara found, there is hope. You don't have to live with the symptoms of PTSD forever. Effective treatments are available.
To learn more about PTSD or how to get help, visit the National Center for PTSD website at www.ptsd.va.gov.
Okay, along with the different mental factors that go along with stress, there are also physical disorders of stress. So some of your psychophysiological disorders could include getting ulcers, asthma, insomnia, chronic headaches, high blood pressure, and coronary disease. Included within the physical aspects of stress, you have psychoneuroimmunological factors. For example, your body's immune system consists of lymphocytes, and these lymphocytes help your body to fight off different infections and to help maintain your health. While stress factors may decrease the activity of the lymphocytes. And so there are multiple things that go into how your body reacts when it is faced with prolonged stress. There are treatments available. There's behavioral treatments and medication, also therapeutic treatments such as relaxation training, biofeedback, meditation, hypnosis, cognitive techniques, and support groups. So there are effective treatments that are available, and it's just making sure that we get that information out to individuals who are living with PTSD or their family members so that we can help them find out that there is help and there is hope so that they can move on and live happy and successful lives. So for the assignments for this week, your first assignment is to watch this integrity video, which you are already doing. The next assignment is to visit the U.S. Veterans Affairs website, and that link is available to you on Blackboard, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. You need to make sure that you are visiting this link and you are following the instructions that I'm going to give you, because you do have questions from the lesson that's on the U.S. Veterans Affairs website on your quiz for this week. So you want to make sure that you visit that, because there are questions that you will not be able to answer from your text because they are specifically related to information that is shared on this website. You also want to make sure that you answer this week's discussion board topic and you respond to 2 of your peers and you take the quiz. This will be due on Thursday at 11:59 p.m. So that's Thursday, September the 18th by 11:59 p.m. So we're going to go ahead and go to Blackboard so we can go over the information that's available to you there. Okay, so now I am on Blackboard in Module 1, so we will be doing week 4. So for week 4, you have the lecture. You need to visit the integrity as you're already doing and listening to the lecture, but you also have the notes that go along with the chapter, so they're the same PowerPoint notes that you've had before, so that you can use this to fill out as you are reading chapter 6. It also lets you know that the lecture notes are attached and you can download and fill them out while you're reading the chapter. Your quiz contains questions from the video lecture, from chapter 6, and the VA website. You are responsible for completing the discussion board assignment after you've read chapter 6. So the website that we discussed, we'll go ahead and click on that link. And so there's coursework or information that loads here. So you are responsible for visiting the site, and you're going to want to make sure that you follow the lesson for the what is PTSD, and you go through the real stories. So when you start, you'll navigate through the site by clicking the next button. So there is a narrator that's
Have
available.
you or someone you love been through combat, lived through a disaster, been raped, or experienced any other kind of traumatic event? Have you ever thought that painful memories of that experience were still causing problems for you or a loved one? You may have heard of PTSD.
So as I stated earlier, even though this website is sponsored by the Veterans Affairs, it is going to cover more than just the post-traumatic stress syndrome from the eyes of the military. They will cover other traumatic events. So you want to make sure that you are navigating through. So after this one were to play to the end, and I could get to the next slide by clicking on next.
PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. It's an anxiety disorder that can occur after you have been through a traumatic event. The event could be something that happened to you that threatened your life or your safety, or you could have witnessed or learned about the terrible thing happening to someone else.
So you are responsible for navigating all the way through. Now, it will not take you through 53 slides to go through what is the PTSD. But it is going to take time, so make sure that you have allotted enough time for you to listen to this. I think it may have taken me maybe about 30-45 minutes to get through the what is PTSD, and then you'll watch the stories. So make sure that you give yourself enough time to navigate through the website before you take the quiz, because the quiz does contain questions that are directly related to what is on this website. Okay, I can't stress that enough, that this is a required website and video for you to watch because it is part of your grade for this week. So after you see the what is PTSD, you also are going to want to make sure that you click on the real stories and you listen to the stories that are provided there for you. So once it's loaded, you'll get the information there. So you'll want to listen to each one of those stories.
PTSD stands for post.
You also have, as I stated before, the information from the DSM-5, the criteria. That document is here and it's available for you on Blackboard. So you'll be able to go through to see what the criteria is for trauma and stress disorders. You also have a stress rating scale available for you. So if you'd like to take this to determine what your stress level is, you have this available so that you can look at that. You can fill it out on the computer or you can print it out. I've also included a video on EMDR. This link to eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. This is one form of therapy that is recognized as an effective form of trauma treatment in numerous practices. So if you want to, you can go ahead and take a look at this to actually see some of this taking place and find more information out about what EMDR is. There's also a song, there's a YouTube video of John Paul Cormier singing a Hometown Warrior song. So you have that available for you too, just to take a listen to. Your discussion board is also posted. It does require that you respond to 2 classmates to get the full credit. So make sure that you are reading the question in its entirety and you are answering that and responding to 2 of your classmates. As I stated in the previous announcement, just make sure that the information that you're typing on the discussion board, that you're doing a double check to make sure that you've checked your spelling and your typos. I understand we all make typos, but let's try and be as correct as possible when we're submitting the information to the discussion board, because this is an academic setting. You also have your quiz located down here at the bottom. There are 13 questions this week. You have 30 minutes to complete the quiz, and it contains questions from the chapter as well as the PTSD information from the VA website link. If you have any questions, please feel free to post that in the virtual office. I've been trying to make sure that I keep current on those, and it's taking me generally about 24 to 48 hours to answer those. Even though everything is due at 11:59, please make sure that you don't wait to the last minute, because if there's any computer or technical issues, if you don't give help desk or me enough time to respond back to you, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage because you may not meet that deadline. So please make sure that you try and get it done prior to the 11:59 deadline. Otherwise, you're taking the chance in case anything happens of you not being able to meet that deadline. I look forward to speaking to you all. I'll be checking in to see how things are going with your group. So expect an email from me within the next week, just trying to see how things are going. So if you have not checked in with your group for the disorder activity, you also want to make sure that you do that this week. You guys should start making some plans on how you're going to complete the assignment. You have inside of your disorder activity, there are tools there to help you work together as a group, whether you use the group blog or the wiki. There are items in there that are set specifically for you and your group members. Once again, this is Dr. Simon. I hope you guys have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you all later on this week.